Hello Sarah, I've put this tutorial together for you today, and this is one of the photographs I've taken at college. The reason I've picked this photograph is because there is a lot of mistakes with it which needs to be fixed, which makes it perfect for the idea of a tutorial. I'm going to run through this quickly because it is very boring to watch these videos. I'm sure you've done all this before as well, but I figured that I'll just reinforce what you already know, so so it's good for the future. Okay, first thing you're looking at is the temperature. This photograph itself is way too warm, as you can tell. The ambient light in the photograph is it's very potent at the moment, so we're just going to bring that down. And as you can see, there's a massive difference. And now we're really starting, and if I go forward and back on the preview bar here, you can really tell a difference. At the moment, the photograph is quite underexposed, so I'm going to just bring that up slightly now, and then you can see the photograph is really coming to life. The recovery bar will fill in details that you may have lost in your photograph, but in this case we won't have to use it so much. Fill light is usually a good tool because it will fill light. It will fill in the parts of the photograph that you may have lost when you were shooting in camera. In this case, the blacks it's bringing in more blacks into your photograph. Kind of works in a similar way to the contrast, but a little bit more potent. If I bring that up a little bit now, you can see that this photograph certainly doesn't need any blacks. The brightness will kind of fill a brightness up throughout the whole picture rather than a single highlight or a midtone. So when I bring this up, it will bring the whole exposure up. The contrast, it says what it does really. If I bring it up, you can see that the contrast has been heavily filled in. If I bring it down, which it needs to do in this picture, you can certainly tell the difference. The clarity of the photograph it will bring more clarity, so it'll bring more detail into your photographs that you may have lost. I'll give you an example here. I'll just zoom in on this part of the bottle here, and obviously this is the candle wax. And by filling the clarity, you can really tell the difference. In some photographs it can work, and some it doesn't. I'm going to zoom out now so you can see what I'm talking about a bit more. This is before, and this is after. So you can tell the photograph has a lot more detail. Now I'm going to bring that down for now. I mean, usually you can get this clarity through playing with the sharpness anyway. So it's good to have a combination of both. Okay, the next one is the tone curves. This will take all of your lights in your photograph and you can control them individually. For instance, if I bring up the highlights here, you can tell that it's brought the bit down the bottom, a little part in the leaves here, and obviously up here as well. If you click on this button up here, you can tell where you're losing detail in your highlights. I'm just going to bring this down now. You can see that you're not losing any detail in your highlights, so that's probably about right. Okay, your lights in your photograph are kind of like your middle tones. So I'll give you an example. By bringing them up, the middle tones in your photograph are being lifted. In this photograph itself, I'm only going to lift them slightly. Your darks, you can usually point them out quite easily. In this photograph, there are a lot of darks because the background itself is dark. But if we play around with this, we can see where our darks are really coming in. I'm just going to turn this off for now. If I turn this down, you really start to see more contrast and lose more detail here. But I mean, the photograph itself is quite contrasty anyway, so we don't really need that so much. Shadows works in the same way really. So them two really correlate alongside each other. As you can see all the detail in the bottle here, we've got some reflection, so I'm just going to make that much darker. So you can just see the edge, but not see anything else. Again, I'm starting to like the way that's coming along. We get to the detail, and sharpening photographs is really important, and I can't stress enough how much it can make your photograph look so much better. I usually add a little bit of sharpness depending on what I'm doing. Um, it's always good to zoom in where you're going to sharpen so you can really see how much detail you are getting. I'm just going to add about 50% in. You can already tell how much it's been brought out. If I zoom out now, I think you can see quite a bit of difference between. I don't think you'll be able to see it so much on my screen, but it's really important to sharpen your images. Another thing that I'm going to talk about is noise reduction, because as you can see from this photograph, when you really zoom in, you do start to lose quite a bit of detail. Not that you can tell so much on websites, it's more of a perfectionist kind of thing. So I'm just going to give you an example here. As you can see, there is quite a lot of noise at the moment. So bringing in a noise reduction at about 50, say, you really lose all of that. So if I go forward and backwards, you can see how that's pretty much curing all of the noise in your photograph. You don't want to go too much on it though, because you'll start losing detail completely. Alright, let me zoom out again. So yeah, now our picture's really starting to come to life. Okay, last thing, I don't want to play around so much with the HS Allen grayscale. Basically what that does, if I wanted to, bring out the reds in my photograph, I could, bring them up. But I don't really want to be playing around with that too much today, because it starts to make things look unnatural. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to talk about vignetting. Vignetting is a good idea. Some people can go overboard in it, but I think sometimes it can really frame your subject matter. And I think in this photograph, it could really, really work quite well. I'm going to bring in a vignette, as you can see. There we go. I think with a picture like this, it does work quite well. Show you before and after again. I think that is working quite nicely. Now I'm going full out for the vignette here. Okay, one thing, at the moment the picture itself from editing looks a little bit bright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to my earlier stages and bring the saturation down, and then we're really looking at what is quite an effective image. And if we compare it to our original, it looks much better. Final thing, when you open your image in Photoshop, hold down the Shift key and click the Open Object. And then when it opens, what it will do, it will save your image as a smart object. This means by clicking on your Photoshop layers palette, if you double click it, you can go back to RAW whenever you want to, which is a really handy thing to have. Anyway, I hope you found the tutorial successful, and even if it's stuff you've already learned, it's always good to reinforce it. But yeah, let me know how you get on. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon, Sarah. Bye-bye.